Hello and welcome to another podcast. Today we will be discussing about sports in general, but more specifically about football. We have a special guest today. Um, his name is Tarik Khan. He was a former councillor, and most importantly, he's the founder of Seoul FC and current director as well. So, Tarik Khan, welcome to the program.
Assalamualaikum, Rulbhai. Thank you for inviting me to
No,
your podcast to speak about something we all love, football, sports in
exactly,
general.
exactly. I
Yeah,
think
so
when
delighted to
you
be here and discuss football,
exactly.
local and national. Yeah.
And obviously, I don't think sports is actually discussed as it should be, especially within the community and within the community media. So that's why I chose sports today. Anyway, do you want to tell me like how you started Seoul FC? I know Seoul FC does a great deal of like work within sports genre, specifically football, and you've been on a tour. So do you want to take us through like how you started Seoul FC?
Yeah, it's a
After
long journey. It's a very long journey. So
when did you
I mean,
start? Yeah, when did you start? Which year?
Soul as an organization and as a sports, it's a massive organization now. It's not just football. It does a lot of other stuff around community, supporting the community and education and all that stuff. But football it was our main core because we started off from there. Um, and we basically initially started this group, the Soul Club, in basically in a bedroom with a few of our mates. We graduated and thought, well, actually, we need to give back to the community. And this is when I was about 21, 22 years old, and said, I know I've graduated, but I've seen so many of my peers who've actually fallen off the rails, who've not done well, who've actually gone on the wrong routes, and we need to sort of make sure that the next generation, we can support them and guide them as much as we can, and that was the initial thinking behind the whole sort of organization. And this was back in 2003, so I'm giving my age away. So and initially, sort of, we started this group. We started fundraising, and there was a youth worker. A lot of people will know Bob Derek in Brick Lane, and he sort of initially gave us some money, funded us, Derek, who's a very good brother. He's been doing youth work in Tower Hamlets and Brick Lane for since the 1960s or so, and he's excellent in sort of supporting and engaging young people. And he was our youth worker, so he supported us to sort of start this off, and then sort of like we started playing football with young people. We started organizing small groups, and then started um, football tournaments, and got young people into football leagues. And obviously, our dream was to sort of like get young people into mainstream football and stuff, which is very difficult. And throughout the years, sort of like years went by, we started winning sort of like local football leagues, doing really well, and getting a lot of young people together. At one time, I remember when we used to go to award ceremonies, the youth section was taken over by us. So whether it's like from under 16 to under 12, we had all our teams had won everything. So like five age groups, and Soul, the name of the Soul was everywhere, and this was testament to our success of like and our commitment to make sure that young people are given the access to sports and given the access to quality football. We started going to football tours to sort of get young people more into the experience of football. So we went to sort of Sweden, and from 2006 to now, we've actually done about 10 or 12 of those tours to Sweden and Denmark, and these are like the biggest football tournaments held across the world, and they hold about 1,500 teams go there annually to play, and these are youth teams. So that's where we sort of started off from, and doing these tours helped a lot of young people sort of understand how sort of other cultures work, how sports works as a wider scope rather than just sort of like just a fitness thing. Like sports can open doors for a lot of people. How sort of individually people can grow and make themselves better. As sort of like not just football wise, but as a human being as well. And that those are things that has always been part of Soul and part of what we wanted to do is make sure that young people are always trying to better themselves, in Tower Hamlets and stuff. And it's not just Soul. I think there's other clubs in Tower Hamlets who've done amazing work to make sure that young people are engaged and being supportive. Um, cut the sort of 20 years has passed, and now Soul has become has expanded, and we do a lot more work. And recently, our football tour, I'm sure a lot of people have seen on the media. We did a tour to Bangladesh only 2 weeks ago. Well, we played one of the biggest social media stars of Bangladesh, who's become an MP, Barrister Shuman's football team, and we played him in Sylhet. And there was an amazing crowd. It was about 15,000 people came to watch us. Packed stadium. It's not even a stadium. It's just a packed crowd of people, and majority of people came for him to see him and to listen to him. But it was amazing to see so many people. And in Bangladesh, in the middle of Sylhet, in the middle of the day, we've got so many people. We won that game.
Mhm.
It was covered quite well on sort of Facebook and all that stuff on social media. And Barrister Shuman sort of gave us hosted us and sort of made sure that the full football was good and made sure that the crowd were engaged as well. We sort of went with the invite of the current Sylhet mayor, who sort of made this possible for us to make sure that the game went ahead. And this was Barrister Schuman's, I think, one of the first exhibition games with the team from London, after he's become an MP a couple of months ago. And then this was an amazing feeling because we had a lot of people going to Bangladesh for the first time. A lot of Bengali young boys who've never been to Bangladesh, and we had about 7 or 8 non-Bengali players going, and they loved the experience. We played also in Jagannathpur. We played a village game, and we played another village game in Osmannagar. And the our all the matches were packed with you people. So the Jagannathpur and Usmannagar game had about 3-4 thousand people there watching and screaming and shouting. And I think the best thing about it was they made our team, our players, feel feel like celebrities. They were taking their photos all over the place and all that stuff. And eventually we went to Dhaka. Then we played Bashundra Kings football club. So if anyone knows about Bangladesh football, Bashundra Kings are like the Man City of Bangladesh football. They've
Wow.
won the Premier League for the last 4 years,
Wow.
and
I didn't know that actually.
and they've basically taken the football league by storm in terms of the amount of money they pumped in. But we were so shocked as to the way they respected us as a community team, the way they gave us, hosted us was amazing. They made us feel professional. They supported us. They sort of gave us everything, and in terms of um, not in terms of making our team feel like we were actually playing as a professional football. They respected us on that level. It was amazing, and they gave us that respect. And again, we have to thank the sort of Silat Mayor to make that possible because they sort of played us during the mid-season when they normally don't do friendlies, but they played us because we had been recommended by the Silat Mayor. And it was amazing. They sort of they had the stadium half for us, and they had big banners of our Soul FC banners across the stadium, and gave us the sort of respect that that any professional team would have. We lost the game, but you gotta understand they played about 7 or 8 Bangladesh national team players. These are professional players, and they
Yeah.
they, they sort of respected us to do that. But it was an amazing feeling, and
Yeah. How about the
inshallah
other two games you played in Jagannathpur and Usmannagar? Did you win?
we
Or?
we we drew the Jagannathpur game. The Jagannathpur game basically we played the day we landed in Sylhet. We were delayed by Qatar Airlines for about 12, 13 hours, so we couldn't have any rest. So the boys basically from landing in Dhaka at 10 o'clock at night
Yeah.
to then being driven to Sylhet. We just had breakfast at sort of 8 o'clock, and that's the only
Oh.
thing we had. And by 11 o'clock we were out, and it was a 2 hour journey from Sylhet to Jagannathpur to play a 3 o'clock kickoff in about 25 degrees. So
Oh. It
we were extremely
must have
tired.
been shattering. Yeah, I can.
Yeah, it was shattered, but the boys were up for it.
Mm.
We did ask them, is anyone swing? And they were like, listen, we're here to play. Let's do it. And the Usman Nagar game didn't go very well. I think the pitch had a huge bump and it was sandy and stuff, but no excuse. And we lost that game 1-0. But I think one of the things we should always remember, and people don't say this enough. The football level of football in Bangladesh is actually quite high. There's a
Really?
lot of good young football players coming out of Bangladesh, and I think the problem is in Sylhet especially. There's not a big football team in Sylhet to actually take that forward. Or there's not a good setup in Bangladesh football to sort of get these boys into a structured football level. And that's how that's the sort of challenge that we should sort of to take and make sure that Bangladesh football evolves, because there's a lot of football being played. People love playing football in Bangladesh, and it's our sort of football status in the world, in sort of world football, doesn't show that, and it should. And I think eventually we should hopefully have a setup like we do in cricket, where Bangladesh are like one of the top 10 cricket nations in the world. We
Yeah.
should be able to invest that amount of money and commitment and facilities and resources to be at that level. And that's where we are now. So I think, inshallah, we sort of have planned to go back to Bangladesh, but our sort of our dream has always been in terms of football to make sure our Bangladeshi footballers are going to a high level of football. So we tried that in many things, and I think many organizations. So I sat in the I sat in the trustee board of Sporting Bengal and Sporting Foundation, which is now known. So Sporting Bengal have been set up in 1996, and they sort of represent the the Bangladeshi football in from Tower Hamlets in England, and they played in the FA Cup and all that stuff. And they're on the step five level of football, the highest level of football any Bangladeshi team has gone to, and they've tried to sort of uplift Bangladeshi football players through grassroots level, but also through professional levels as well. And it's difficult. It's not easy. Football isn't an easy game. It's very difficult. There's a lot of resources, but if you see how the English Premier League has gone far, our Bangladeshi football hasn't led that way as well, and that's the sort of challenge that we all should try and, because at the moment we don't have any Bangladeshi or hardly any Asian footballers playing in the Premier League or higher divisions. I think the one Bangladeshi player we have is Hamza Chowdhury, and he's of mixed race, but he's one of his parents are Bangladeshi, and I think when we were in Bangladesh, there's been sort of rumors, and I think there's negotiations of trying to get Hamza Chowdhury to represent Bangladesh and play for Bangladesh international team, which would be really good.
Wasn't there another guy called Anwar? He used to play some time ago for Pakistan.
Yeah, Anwar Chowdhury. I think Anwaruddin. Sorry. So Anwaruddin used to be the captain of Dagenham and Redbridge, and this was about 10 years ago. He actually came and managed Sporting Bengal for one or two seasons, and he's still part of the community. I think one of the things he's trying to do is trying to get into the sort of the background of football administration in England, and he's setting up a lot of pathways for other players, and a lot of he's trying to make football accessible to young people and to sort of like ethnic minorities and the Bangladesh community as well. So he's doing a lot of work in the background of football in England, and he's getting a lot of respect for that. So we hope him well, but he's trying to open doors for a lot of us as well to make sure that we can sort of like not only football can serve as on the pitch but off the pitch as well to do that. But again, he's finding it difficult. There are challenges, but he's knocking on the door, and because he was a professional player, he's found it easy. I think he started off at West Ham and he's then moved on to Dagenham and Redbridge. So yeah, there are one or two, but we want more.
Yeah.
That's where we are.
I mean, it's surprising in this day and age, we still don't have a proper, like, let alone Bengali, Asian player in the top teams, you know.
It's, it's
And I suppose that racism, like we see this on the media, we see racism on the field and off the field as
yeah,
well. A lot of
it
the
is.
time,
It's
black
you know,
players, many black players. We have
mm,
like only black players in the main top teams.
yeah,
We haven't got any sort of Asians, like Indian, Pakistani, or Bangladeshi
yeah.
heritage players. So I think that's something in the industry needs to work on. Don't you think, Tariq bhai?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not just racism. I think there's a lot of bias towards Bangladeshi or Asian football players. The Indian football sort of diaspora in
Mm.
England. It's difficult. Previously there used to be thing like these Asians, their diet isn't good enough. Now it's sometimes now we hear, oh, they're too small. They're not going to grow tall and physical enough. So that sort of thing. But
You know what I think, Tarik, is because, like, there's this narrative out there, like, so, always blame the immigrants,
yeah, yeah,
That,
and the
isn't
thing
it?
is,
Blame the immigrants, If we don't
it's
want
yeah,
immigrants playing in the top teams,
yeah.
we blame them, for something. I
It's
think that's what it
it's
is. But I really
the
think, like, Tarik, I have my own team in Bangladesh. I actually sponsor a team. Yeah.
wow, that's
Very
good.
small team. Like you said earlier on, we don't have the sort of facilities
Resources.
like sports centers,
Yeah.
even like grounds to play. We don't have a proper
Mm.
academy. And kudos to Barrister Shumon, who
Mm.
really started this revolution in Bangladesh to promote football.
Yeah,
The Football Association of Bangladesh really is like all over the place. He keeps
yeah,
attacking,
yeah,
attacking and criticizing them because they're not doing enough. And like you said,
yeah.
you've been to many parts of Bangladesh, and you've seen we have talent in Bangladesh. They just need to be nurtured, you see?
Exactly,
Um,
this is probably where cricket was about 40, 50 years ago. Like, no, there's a lot of cricket, but they weren't nurtured, or they weren't given the actual structure of sort of football or cricket at that time to go for. And I think hopefully eventually, we dream, and inshallah one day they'll do so. And if they do, I think it will open doors for many young people. And we've seen a lot of talented players. I think going back to the sort of racism and the bias and why Asians don't get picked for football, I think one of the things happened is because football has become risen in England so far up.
hmm,
The scouts that are coming out to pick players,
hmm,
they've got a set mentality now that this is what they want. They want big, strong lads. They don't want the small technical football players that the Asian
hmm,
football players have.
hmm.
They're more small and technical. But if you see the level of football across Europe and the world, like Brazilians or Argentinians and
Yeah, they're
Spanish as well have
yeah,
done
they're
it. They're
very
small and
small, yeah,
technical. So
small in size. Yeah.
I've got this idea that if Bangladeshi or Asian players want to seriously make it, they should move to places like France or Belgium or Holland, because they appreciate more of the technical players, more small, because they don't look at height or physique. They're more sort of it's more about technique and the touch and all that stuff. So that's possibly a thing that Asians can do, because my theory, and this is my theory. So, like, if you look at the way German football changed, the way French football changed, so
Hmm,
Germany after the sort of 94 or 98 World Cup, where they performed really poorly, they went out to the slums of Germany. They went out to the sort of estates and
yeah.
to the ghettos of Germany and got out the football players, and started engaging with them. And through through that piece of work, if you see how German football thrived, and their World Cup winning team in 2014, and even their team in 2010 was filled with players from their states, from the sort of smaller areas. So, like, they were filled with players from Poland, Turkey, and Iran, and all that stuff. So, like, that's how football grows.
Hmm,
France did the same, because France, on the early 90s, were performing really badly.
hmm,
They went out to the sort of grassroots and to the estates and to the sort of to the sort of poorer areas, impoverished areas of France. And if you see the French 1998 World Cup team,
hmm,
like Zidane from Algeria, they had
hmm,
Jokayev, they had a lot of black players
hmm,
from Africa. And I don't think English football has English football, the hierarchy has got into that as well. Because if
hmm,
they do, then I think they'll come into engaging players from their states in probably Tower Hamlets or the inner London areas of Tower Hamlets and Newham, and that's the difference, because it's worked in France and Germany. Because France, as
yeah,
you can see now, they're thriving. Their football is mainly the majority of their team is made up of
hmm,
French Africans.
exactly.
same in Germany. Their majority of their team is made up of
Yeah,
like
they've gone on to
Turkish
win
Germans.
World Cups, international like
Yeah,
tournaments.
exactly.
So I think
So
if anything, England needs to really look towards France and Germany.
yeah, exactly. And France
They
and
have the
Germany,
answer, you know?
yeah, and they've won the World Cup and stuff. So
Yeah.
that's an argument, but changing the hierarchy of football is hard. We
You
can
know what I
do as
believe,
much.
Tarik? I really believe that given the chance, the Asians can do really well in football. Yeah, they're any sports.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Look, if we can do
I'm
better, if we can do really well in cricket, or any other
yeah.
sports for that matter. We can do very well in football without a doubt. I really believe in that. Maybe you guys can like from the Seoul FC. Maybe you guys can open an academy in Sylhet. You know, the mayor, he's a like expat. You know, I'm sure he'll
Mm.
cooperate. He's a really good guy. That's what I've heard. Everybody seems to praise him. So
Yeah. No,
maybe,
he's
yeah,
doing some great work with
yeah.
sports and stuff, and he's open to the discussion. He's open to having a discussion about sports, in general, not just for football, but other
By
bits
doing
as
that,
well.
Tariq, by Sylhetis in Bangladesh, Sylhetis have been widely recognized as pioneers of many things.
Yeah.
In
So yeah, of course,
yeah, maybe we
and
can
that
pioneer, we can become the pioneers of like modern football, like
well, of course, we
you know?
can do. But as I said, there needs to be resources pumped into this, and investment and the commitment needs to come from the top to
Mm,
sort of start this off. But the thing is, Silat is thriving for many sports. It's not just for football. There's so many young people.
mm,
I'm pretty sure that if the resources were there, there's like there's so many Olympic sports, and we have the Olympics this year in France,
mm,
2024. We you know the amount of people, Bangladesh has a huge population.
mm,
If our sports was up to standards, in terms of resources, in terms of investment, there
mm,
could be a lot of Olympic stars coming up, and we have one young Bangladeshi brother who runs in the 100-meter races.
mm,
And I think just last week or a couple of days ago, he finished in the semi-finals of the world indoor championships.
yeah.
He went to the semis. I think that's one of his sort of best performances. And it's like if we can nurture this talent and find the talent, I'm sure there can be a lot more of Bangladeshi,
Mm,
Asian people playing sports
mm.
across the different
Well,
different.
if you look at cricket, Tariq Bhai, in the subcontinent, not just Bangladesh, it is so popular. My God,
Yeah,
you see kids, young kids, like playing in street corners.
yeah, and
Every
like the
cricket is so
Indians.
popular, and the
Yeah,
football. Obviously, you need a big space. That's why
yeah.
people do play in Bangladesh, but it's not uh, as popular as cricket. Yeah.
I mean, it is popular in terms of people watch it, people love it. But it's obviously playing the game is different, and people love playing cricket. I think, and because cricket has been such a big part of the Indian subcontinent, because whether it's the Indian cricket team, the Pakistan cricket team, Sri Lanka, you have India, now we have Afghanistan and Nepal, and all these teams, all
Mm,
these countries, sort of like evolving in cricket.
mm.
Um, this Indian subcontinent thrives with these players. Like Bangladesh has some amazing cricket players. Like
Sakib
Sakibul Hasan
Al
is one of the best cricketers in the world.
Mashrafi is another one.
Yeah, Masrafi and these people, Bangladesh cricket,
Mm,
obviously it's behind Pakistan and India, but eventually you will get there. And this has been because of the level of investment that has been put in to the cricket structures of Bangladesh. But it's not just cricket, because we have such a big population. There can be so many sports stars coming through the sort of Bangladesh and sort of in the Indian subcontinent. And the other thing is, because there's not many role models in football or in any sport. So imagine we had Bangladesh has a lot of water, a lot of rivers. People swim there naturally. Kids learn to swim when they're like 2, 3 year olds.
yeah,
You don't get that in this country. We have to go to a swimming pool
exactly.
to get swimmers. So that could be a way of investment and getting the resources to sort of like get swimmers out of Bangladesh.
Mm,
And if we had sort of like 3 or 4 swimmers make it into the Olympics, then naturally the sort of the sort of the so the sort of young people follow those role models, and we don't have those role models in big sports,
Yeah.
big sports fields. If we have three, four going in, or one or two, slowly others follow, because if it's a winning thing, then winners evolve other
Exactly.
winners. That's how winners breed other winners. That's how sports works, and sport is many times it opens many doors for people. It opens doors for peace.
Totally.
For many things.
Personally,
And
I want to thank you and your organization for the work that you do. Honestly, it makes a lot of difference, to a lot of impoverished children out there, especially in East London where we, live. Can I ask you, like, obviously, the organization started back in 2003. Over the years, do you find that kids, uh, can you see the difference? Like, do you think like 20 years ago, more people were doing sports compared to now, or do you think there's more people taking up sports now, generally, not just football?
I think young people and their mindset has changed over the years. There's a lot more when we were young. There was a lot less social media, a
Hmm.
lot less sort of games, consoles, and stuff. So the mentality has changed about sort of young people and how they engage in outdoor sports.
Hmm.
So we are finding actually there's a lot less people engaging in outdoor team sports or individual sports. I think parents now are trying to push kids away from home to sort of go out and start playing
Hmm.
outdoor sports, team sports, and parents are getting more involved. I think that's one thing we found, that more parents are getting involved. More parents are getting their children into sports. One of the things we found over the last sort of 2 3 years is more young girls getting into team sports, whether
Yeah.
it's football or gymnastics or other sports or martial arts and all that stuff. There's a lot more girls getting involved because again, and it's the parents pushing them, but also I think young girls want to play sports as well, and they need to be part of this conversation about involving sports. Um, One of the things we found is obviously the facilities in Tower Hamlets or in East London isn't that great, and lot of the times the good facilities are expensive. So it's difficult to sort of always find the right facilities to sort of play sport in. Because if you can imagine, in Tower Hamlets we don't have a cricket pitch.
Yeah.
Um, so
Hmm.
so in Tower Hamlets we're trying to do a lot for cricket, but we don't have a cricket pitch to we don't have an actual cricket pitch to host a cricket game.
Hmm.
So those are the things in terms of facilities that we need to invest in more. But young people on a general level have reduced because like the world has changed. Young people's mentality has changed in terms of before when we were young, we used to go out on the streets and play football with a cat with a
I
cat.
remember, Tarik, when I was growing up, I used to be a good footballer, by the way.
Yeah,
So I used to play almost every day. Me and you are
exactly.
probably the last generation, like the outside generation,
Yeah,
and then the recent generation of our children's generation are probably the
yeah,
first indoor generation.
exactly. Because
Like you say, they have social media. We didn't have social media,
yeah,
so
because
I was
we used
almost
to.
playing football every day, playing cricket
Yeah,
as well. Um,
exactly. So we grew up playing football on the street corners.
yeah,
On with a
yeah,
if we didn't have a ball, we found a can in the street and kicked that about.
exactly.
And you don't get that today.
Yeah,
That sort of mentality has changed.
yeah.
But and it's not just a change in the sort of Bangladeshi or inner London or Hamlets. It's a change across England and across the world as well.
Yeah.
The mentality of young people has changed.
Mhm. Which is very
Um,
sad. That is why I think, Tariq, like, children need to engage more with sports and, with clubs like yours, you know, uh,
yeah.
just to keep themselves like healthy, yeah, and fit. So that's one thing maybe people should engage with. Um, uh,
Mm,
One thing I realized, like, I used to take my children to sort of a lot of these extra clubs, school clubs, after school.
mm.
Yeah, a lot of the parents aren't doing that. But maybe that's something parents should explore.
Yeah, yeah. I
Also,
think
they like,
obviously,
I think in many ways, if you compare Townless to other boroughs within London, we have 32 boroughs, right? We
yeah,
have so many like organizations offering different services for free.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
this
I
is
mean,
something parents really need to sort of explore, and also like especially swimming. Like swimming, like when I used to take my children to swimming,
Mm.
I was the only Bengali parent, in the swimming center, believe me or not.
I mean, if
Swimming is not just a sport type, but it's a life skill. People
yeah,
feel it to
exactly. I
be as a
mean,
sport.
we've got to credit the people in Tower Hamlets because
Mm.
our borough is full and thriving of voluntary sectors,
Exactly.
of different organizations, of different
Exactly.
sports organizations
Mm.
doing things, and different community organizations. Because we work in different boroughs across town, across London, and the level of voluntary support you have in Tower Hamlets,
Mm.
you don't have that across other boroughs.
Exactly.
You'll be
Apparently,
surprised
there's
when
about like 60 organizations. Am I right? Roughly.
there's more than 60. Trust me, in Hamlets is huge. If you
Yeah.
go to neighboring boroughs, you won't
Exactly. You hardly see any
find
organization.
the resources
Mm.
as you do in Hamlets. It's
Yeah.
amazing. You'll see that there's a stark difference of
Yeah.
voluntary organizations in Tower Hamlets compared to even Newham or Barking, or if you go further afield in Islington and places, it's
Another
huge.
sport
Uh,
that I want to touch on is like badminton. Like I'm a regular badminton player. This is a sport where you can play 12 months of the year. You play inside,
yeah.
especially in town. Like we have like roughly about 4 or 5 facilities where you can play. Like I play obviously in my local center. Uh, so that's something maybe you guys can work on, like promoting badminton, because what I see is like most of the players who I play with is my generation. You don't see the young generation coming to
Yeah,
badminton.
yeah, no,
Uh,
and I think that I've seen badminton thrive over the last sort of 10 years or so,
hmm,
and especially with sort of adults, middle-aged people, and especially people who've come in new to the country. Because the thing is, one of the thing is people that have say adults and stuff.
hmm,
It's good for them to be playing sports, and
hmm,
badminton is a sport that people have taken up, which is
yeah,
good because adults need to stay healthy, and this is
yeah,
our community. Like
yeah,
we need to make sure that people are people have resources and facilities to keep them healthy. And if badminton is the way forward, then yes, we should invest in it more. I've been, it's the other problem with badminton is facilities isn't that great. And as you said, there's about 4 or 5 facilities in Hamlets,
hmm,
and not everyone. You can't just set up a badminton court anywhere because
exactly.
the sort of the ceiling needs to be high for the shuttle to run from one side to another. But those are things that we can look at and sort of invest in more for, because it's great that people are
Yeah,
engaging in sport, but we need to make sure that it carries on and the facilities are there to make sure that other people can play as well.
yeah. Another sport which has taken off recently, like I don't know if it's a sport or it's more like more of a martial arts, MMA.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like I
Um,
find it like my kids or a lot of youngsters tend to follow MMA, and I think it's because of this guy, the world champion, Khabib.
yeah, yeah. So there's
He really actually took it to the next level, and
yeah, yeah.
recently, I
So
don't know if you've
I
seen,
think, as I
this
said,
Bengali guy. He's actually he's called I think Shah Kamali.
Shah
Yeah,
Kamali. Yeah,
he's
I've
doing
seen
really
his.
well. He's actually classmate of my son. You know,
Okay, wow. So
he's doing
this
really
again,
well.
this is
He won
about,
all of his matches within the first round. Believe me or not.
yeah.
Such a good,
So
good
this is about, as I said, about representation and sort of the role models. So if you have someone
yeah,
who's made it and who's doing well,
yeah,
and then there's other people will naturally follow. So if you look
yeah,
at boxing, Amir Khan has
yeah,
became a sort of world champion, and now you've got sort of like young Asian boxers who want to follow him.
yeah.
And there's good Asian boxers. There's a good Bengali boxer,
Oh
Khaled
yeah,
Ali, who's
Khalid. Yeah,
I've
Khalid is
gone
in
to
the
watch.
yeah,
And then there's some very good young Pakistani boxers as well
mm,
coming through. And again, in MMA, people have seen there's Muslim MMA fighters, like there's famous Muslim ones, and they're sort of winning championships and stuff. So
exactly.
people are naturally following them.
Mm.
So that's how it works. Like
Yeah,
you
recently
know, the,
another a son of a friend basically won the UK national championship in jiu-jitsu, by the way. I
yeah,
don't
yeah, exactly. So
it
as I
hasn't been
said,
covered like in the media
yeah,
generally, but
so as I said,
it is an
yeah.
achievement at the end of the day. Yeah,
Mm.
he's a Bengali
and
and he's
and
a
and,
national
and
champion.
yeah, and that's about representation, like so as soon as there's role models in one
Yeah,
subject, it's not about just about sports. In anything
yeah,
you'll see that other people will naturally follow. It's the breeding of winning mentality. Like if there's one person who can make it, others will naturally think, okay, if I work hard enough, you can make it. I mean, my thing. I think we're coming to an end. I think my thing, and I've always said,
Yeah, we'll have to wrap it up.
it,
We've got about
it,
a minute. Yeah.
my sort of advice to all young people would be that it's hard work that pays off. Talent alone isn't enough,
Mm.
because you've got to work hard to make sure that you sort of succeed. Because you can be as talented as you like, but if you don't work hard, you won't make it. Hard work always beats talent. And that's sort of that's the mentality we should keep.
Yeah, thank you, Tarik. Thank you for your time. And I
No,
think you guys really should think about opening academy in Bangladesh. I really think,
inshallah.
we could go places, we can make
Yeah,
history, basically.
of
Like
course,
Bharat said, let's make history from Sylhet,
of course, always.
let's take
Yes,
the
sir.
sport to the next level in Bangladesh.
Mm.
Yeah, until the next podcast, people, thank you for watching and
Inshallah.
yeah, stay well. Thank
Fine.
you. Thanks.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.